Good morning, good morning, good morning, Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester, and here at Daily Spark, we like to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about ministry. My guest today is Chynna Staton, and she is of Powerful Women in Ministry, as well as representing First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park in Newport News, Virginia. So we're talking about being an inspirational blogger and how church ministries can really set the tone for the millennial generation to get them involved and get them fired up for Christ. Now, you may be familiar with Chynna Staton because she is so involved in her community. But let me tell you a little bit more about her. Chynna Staton was born and raised in the Tidewater area of Virginia. She received her bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in management information systems from St. Paul College, graduating cum laude. She received a master's from Stratford University in information systems, graduating magna cum laude. She is brilliant. She is brilliant, y'all. So this isn't just something. This is something. Well, Chynna is very dedicated to her church. Of course, that church is First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park, located in Newport News, Virginia. There, she is involved in children's church, tutorial programs, and is the founder and chairperson of the college prep course guiding students and families through the process of applying to college. The first annual event was held on August 12th in 2017 at the church and was a success with over 40 participants. Well, Chynna is also the founder of Power Women in Ministry, where she writes weekly inspirational messages encouraging not only women, but Christians as a whole to become their best selves. She has a book that will be released in the fall of 2018 entitled My Inspirations, which is a step-by-step process towards success while maintaining your Christianity. She lives by the philosophy of W.E.D. Du Bois, and that is the talented tenth. You are 1/10 of your community that becomes successful, and then you come back to that same community and help someone else become successful. So without any further ado, let's bring on Miss Staton. Hello. Good morning, Chynna. How are you? Thank you for joining me today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. Now, I love to have brilliant women on the program. Not knocking our fellas out there, but, hey, we got to have girl power on the show as often as we can. So thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely.
Now, just in case people aren't familiar with the church, can you tell us a little bit more about, before we get into your book and all of that, can you tell us a little bit more about the ministries that are available at your church?
Yes, ma'am, of course. The church is called First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park, and it's located in Newport News, Virginia. And we have various ministries at the church, but the ministries that I'm involved in, of course, revolves around children. And so that's the tutorial program where we meet once a week, and we have the kids for an hour and a half, and we tutor them in all subjects from kindergartners all the way up to college level students. And we give them something to eat, a snack, and so they have a full hour to tutor, to be tutored, and then we give them a snack, and then they're on their way back home. And another ministry that I'm involved in is called Children's Church, and that is we collect the children and we take them upstairs and we do small activities, and of course it's related to the Bible lessons, and we do that on certain Sundays. A couple of other ministries that we have is, of course, Sunday school, and we invite our local community to join in with us. It's very, very exciting. I love teaching the children. I was a substitute teacher for 2 years for Newport News Public Schools. So that is really my passion.
I just love it when people are truly on fire for youth. Not everyone is really and truly called or purposed to work with our youth. Just because you can doesn't always mean that you should. We really need people that have a love and a passion for that, because our young people are really looking to you for that guidance, or looking to you for patience, for direction, and it really makes a difference. And especially when you are kind of closer in their age. Not that I'm knocking anybody, but they kind of look at you as an auntie, and there's kind of a different relationship that they build with you, or even a cousin, and it really does really build a bond there. Now, I know that you have a book that is coming up, and that will release in the fall of 2018. Can you tell me a little bit more, without, of course, giving too much away? Can you tell me a little bit more about your book?
Yes, of course. The book is titled My Inspirations, and I came up with the concept of the book a few years ago when I wasn't in a good place in my life. My mom had passed, and I was just looking for, any type of inspiration that I could get. And I came up with it, and I just started. Actually, the book is almost complete. I've started writing a few years ago, and I just would jot down some thoughts, and then I would relate some Bible scriptures to what I have written, to make it make sense for the consumer. And and I, at the time I was writing, I didn't even know that I was writing a book until until it became very lengthy. Yeah, so
yeah. It's so funny. So many people. I was going to say, so many people have said that. It's like, I didn't know that I was writing my book until I'd written my book. It's like, oh, yeah, That is so funny. I love it. But then that means, too, that you have written from the heart. You have shared, and it is a genuine share, that you weren't necessarily trying to write what you thought we wanted to hear, but you really wrote what was on your heart. And boy, that really makes a difference when you're able to read the author's truth.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think that, now I know that this is your very first book, but do you think that being an author is something that you would like to continue to do? So I guess my question is, do you think this is going to be your one and only book, or do you think there's a few more books inside of you?
I think there's a few more books inside of me, because the Lord is always giving me confirmation. And, of course, I was very nervous because this is my first initial presentation to the consumer. So, but I'm very, very excited, and whatever that the Lord has for me, I believe it's for me.
Now, is the book written kind of like a devotional, in that you can read a little something every day, or is it more so set like a novel where there's chapters that you need to read?
It's definitely a devotional.
Okay.
And I came up with a concept when I received a book. It's called The Prayer of Jabez, and I received that book from a dear friend of mine, and it was a gift. And I started reading it, and I enjoyed the structure throughout the book, and I definitely, came up with the concept for my book based on what I had read from that book. So.
And that is such a wonderful book. Readers, if you're wondering what it is, all we can both say is pick up that copy, when, of course, you're also picking up a copy of Ms. Staton's book as well. So we have just a few more minutes before we need to go to break, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to get in contact with you. So, Chynna, if you could, please, could you let folks know how can they get in contact with you, or how can they follow you on social media if you're there?
Yes. First, I start out with Twitter, and it's Diamond757. So it's at Diamond757 on Twitter. I'm actually on Instagram as well, and it's my name is Diamond Diva 757, no spaces, and my blog, The Powerful Women in Ministry.wordpress.com, no spaces.
Alrighty, listeners, well, you heard it right there. We need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we will continue to speak with Chynna Staton of Powerful Women in Ministry and also First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park in the Newport News, Virginia area. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. Today, my guest is Chynna Staton, and she is representing First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park in the Newport News, Virginia area. But she's also sharing her own ministry, and that is Powerful Women in Ministry. She is an inspirational blogger. So we will be talking not only about church, but we're also going to talk about what it's like to be a woman in ministry and an author and all of the wonderful things that women's ministry can bring to our day-to-day lives. So, Chynna, one of the things that you mentioned that is provided at the church and that you're a really big part of is the college prep course. What is the college prep course, and what is kind of your target audience? Is it only for seniors, or is it only for those people that are kind of shaky or undecided about going to college? Who should show up?
It's actually all of the above, including 8th graders, because believe it or not, 8th graders start to prep, what they want to do in college, what college should they want to go to, and the guidance counselors are very involved with that. But the college prep course that I've created is actually a step-by-step process, and I've created a manual as well, and we talk about the FAFSA information. So when you get invited, I ask that parents, come and get involved because it's very informational. And so the parents can get information on how to fill out the FAFSA form, how to submit a letter of intent, meaning that if you're interested in a college, you can submit a letter and say, hey, my daughter or son is interested in your college. And, just it's a way for you to stay connected to the college. Also, we have information on choosing the best college and university, because every college that you want to go to might not be suitable for you. So you have to, write down some questions on what you're looking for, at your college, the surrounding communities, what do they have in the communities. Also, a guide to choosing the best major or minor for you. Also choosing the best organizations or clubs that are on campus. And so it's a step-by-step process, and it was so enjoyable to just see the parents ask questions, because the kids went off and they started talking with some experts that were in various fields that were there at the church. So it was kind of like a hands-on experience. And the parents stayed back in my section and asked me questions, and I was able to provide those answers for them.
I love it. Anytime that there is a workshop, a seminar, or an expo that can expose our children to the options that they have to make sure that they get the education that they need is such a wonderful thing. So just thank you so much for providing that in your community especially. Now, be it that you are doing so much and you are a young person that is involved in your community and that you're trying to make a positive difference, what are some of the principles that you live by, or what are some of the day-to-day nuggets that you can share with someone else that might be considering, trying to make a difference, or they just want to be inspired to be a better person?
Well, number one, once I wake up in the morning, I pray, because prayer is the direct connection to God. When we call on Him, we will never get a business signal. We just have direct contact. So that's number one. And number two, you have to find your passion. What are you passionate about? Just like I'm passionate about helping kids and helping students get into colleges. So you have to find your passion. And it's all sorts of organizations that are in local communities and that you can join in with. I'm actually partnership with my church and my alma mater, which is Stratford University. We're doing a coat drive, and we're going to help some local families this season with coats. And so you can just find what your passion is.
It is so wonderful to see people again. As I know that you were as well, being raised in a civic-minded family really and truly does make the difference, because you see the opportunity to help someone, and you go on and fill the gap. You don't necessarily wait to be asked. You see that there's a need, and you want to take care of that need. And boy, do we need someone to continue to help our youth and to help those that just don't know. And it's amazing how many people just don't know what they don't know when it comes to education. So you're really and truly making a difference. Now, I know that sometimes people have catchphrases that they use, or a motto or a theme for their life. And many times I've heard you say, hey, we need to guide people to success, that you are trying to help your students or the youth, guide them to success. What does that mean? Or what do you want someone to take away from that statement?
I actually live by a philosophy called A Talented Tenth by W.E.B. Du Bois, and it means that you are 1/10 of your community that made it, so you will come right back to that same community and help someone else make it. And I'm all about, being successful and helping someone else be successful as well. And like I said, you just have to find your passion and what you're passionate about. And I'm just passionate about helping people and providing resources for people. Because, like you stated before, a lot of people just don't know. There's a lot of resources out here for families, who might not have, the basic necessities, and they don't know. It's just like, for an example, Social Services actually have a free program for students that are in low-income housing, where they provide free Internet services.
Oh, wow.
And, and so a lot of people don't know that. So when I hear something, I spread the news, because I want everyone, it's like you're sharing the wealth. I want everyone to be informed on a lot of resources that we have in our local communities.
And I think that it really and truly does help. We used to hear that phrase all the time that says, each one teach one. And I think that really does make a difference. And listeners, you guys know, you've heard me say, the collective consciousness. If I know something, I'm going to make sure that you know it as well. And I try to have people on the show, I try to have people on the show that feel the same way. They want you to be empowered and to let you know that it is available. I had no idea that that was an option. And it's funny that you mentioned a particular demographic. And I wanted to go back, and you may have answered, and I apologize if you did and I didn't hear you. With the college prep course, is that course something that is geared towards low-income families, or can middle-class families? Does it matter what your income or what your parents' income base is? Is it for everyone, or is it for a certain group of folks?
Well, initially, I wanted it to be in our low-income communities, and for especially the Black communities, because and another thing that I did not mention is that I also provided, during the college prep course, I provided a whole list of scholarships that are only for minorities. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. And people like Bill Gates, create scholarships just for African Americans, but we don't apply for them because we just don't know. So that's where the whole concept came from, with the college prep courses for the low-income communities and for our Black students.
You know, you really said something there, because people do not realize that there are scholarships for particular fields, like if you want to go into engineering, or if you want to be a teacher, or if you want to go into mental health. You know, it is amazing at how much money is actually out there. But the thing is that you do have to kind of do some due diligence of your own. You have to look for them.
Right.
You know, the money is not going to just show up on your door. You know, you really do have to look for it. Man, that is so true. And there was one thing that I learned that, and I'm pretty sure that you shared with your kids as well, is that students have to apply for scholarship money every year. I think that some people think that once you apply, like your freshman year, that some kind of way that money just keeps following you every year. So if you were one of the people that attended that workshop and you had that list of scholarships, make sure you don't throw away that piece of paper, because you're gonna need that. And that was so refreshing, and you could see a lot of people going, really? Oh, but there again, you just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Now, before we have about 3 minutes left in this particular segment, and I wanted to touch on your powerful women in ministry. I definitely want to come back and talk to you more about that when we come back from break. But what is Powerful Women in Ministry? How did that get started?
Powerful Women in Ministry was a concept that I came up with in 2015. As I stated before, I was in a very low place in my life, and I was just looking towards any and everything for just a little bit of inspiration. And so that's how the name came about. And I just started, it's a blog, and I just started to write a couple of times a week, and then it started where I was just writing a blog once a week, and then I will invite my Twitter followers and Instagram followers so they can view it and become inspired. And it was just things that I was going through. I think one of my favorite posts that I did was called Vision Boards, and I love vision boards. And because it's like you set your goals and you work towards them, and then you eventually execute your goals. And it was a step-by-step process, and I typed it up, and then I relayed a scripture. So anything that I write, I always go in the Bible and I find a scripture so people can understand where I got the inspiration from. Exactly.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. And thank you for doing that, because we have so many people that are new to Christianity, and they want that information. They want to be able to feel like they're learning without many times without it being too preachy. And I think people understand what I mean by that. It's like, oh, okay, she presented that in a conversational format, or she presented that in just a day-to-day way that I felt like I learned something, but I didn't feel bad, or I didn't feel condemned, or I didn't feel put down, but instead I feel encouraged and I feel inspired because she shared, but then they're also able to go and meditate on that scripture later on in the day because you've told them where it is.
Exactly. And I'm actually on the site right now, if I can just share a couple posts. It was one called Confession. The other one was called Receive the Word from the Lord. I have a midweek praise. I have one called People Are Hurting. What is your destiny? The healing process. This is kind of like a coaching session where I kind of coach you through the healing process, because I was once broken as well. But I seek the Word of God, and He made me whole again. But I'm just telling you my experience, and it kind of helps someone, through the healing process. And so it's just whatever that I'm feeling that day, I might post, or if someone came and, confide in me about something and I want to write it down and I feel like it's going to inspire someone. But like I said, it's very exciting. Very exciting to share a word with someone.
Yes. Well, listeners, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk to Chynna Staton a little bit more about her ministry, Powerful Women in Ministry, but we need to take a very short break. When we get back, we're going to keep on going with this good information about women in ministry. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Chynna Staton, and she is talking about two things. One is her church at First Baptist Jefferson Park in the Newport News, Virginia area. But she's also talking about her ministry, and that is Powerful Women in Ministry as an inspirational blogger. How church ministry really and truly can affect our day-to-day lives. Because who doesn't want to be inspired? That's why you're listening to this show. You want to be inspired, you want to be enlightened, and you want to be empowered. So, Chynna, we were talking about your ministry, Powerful Women in Ministry, and you were saying how you have various types of blog posts that's there for the readers to be able to read and get inspired throughout the day, throughout the week, and that you share from just so many different perspectives. Would you say that you've gotten positive feedback from the people that are participating in your ministry?
Absolutely, especially a church member. She goes at least once a week. Every time I make a post, I will text her the link, and she goes right on, and sometimes she'll leave comments, and so her and I go back and forth, and it's a way for me to connect with the viewers as well. So I do tell people that I'm a type of person that I do respond. If I do see that you have made a comment, I will respond to you. Absolutely. So for the listeners out there, it's www.powerfulwomeninministry.wordpress.com, no spaces. And you will see my post, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions, and we can definitely keep an open dialogue for that.
And that is so good. I love the fact that you say that you respond, because so many times people don't respond, and you're really trying to make a connection with the author of the post. You know, even if you have a question or you just want to leave some positive feedback yourself as the reader. So thank you for doing that. Kind of shifting gears a little bit and talking about the church, especially for those who may have tuned in a little bit late. We mentioned that the church that you attend is First Baptist Jefferson Park, and that's in Newport News, Virginia. And one of the things that your church provides that people may not be familiar with is a thing called EGiving. Can you explain what that is, and how does your church utilize it?
Yes, definitely. EGiving is set up for people to, make donations to the church, because we are the kingdom connection. And the church utilizes funds for providing gas for the church vans to go and pick people up for Sunday services. We recently partnership with Norfolk State University. And what we're doing, actually we're going to be in a basketball tournament in February. But we're going to start picking the students up and bring them to Sunday service, which I'm super excited, because everyone, want to feel a part of something, especially if these are students that, are from out of town, and they want to feel like they're a part of something. And we're going to also open it up for them to engage with the tutorial program. So if they need, tutoring in, various areas, the church can provide that as well. So we will utilize the funds for that. And then who knows, we might want to, take the students out to eat after church, or, do something fun. Yeah, so you can definitely, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, and you heard me, because you heard me say, "Wow, that is amazing! That is such an awesome thing." Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was my thought. Like, wow, what an awesome thing!
You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we're super excited.
Yeah. Does the person need to be local? Like, do they need to be in Virginia in order to give, or is this open for anyone to be able to make a donation?
It's open for anyone, and actually it's on the church website, so it's www.first-baptist-jefferson-park.com, no spaces, and you will see a link that says EGiving, and we will be more than happy if you start donating, and we can do more things in the community. We recently had a fall festival, and this was actually in October for the kids, and we had like 2 bounce houses outside. We had a mini carnival inside with popcorn machine and cotton candy machine and various, activities for the kids. And, I mean, it was awesome. So these type of donations goes towards things like that.
That is such a wonderful, wonderful idea. I'm shocked that more churches don't do that. What a wonderful way, especially if you're the type of person that wants to help the youth. This is a really great way to be able to help somebody that might, even though they're may not be in your community, or perhaps they are. What a great way to help the youth stay positive and have something positive to do. That's really awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, if someone is listening and let's say they are in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia right now, because we realize that, we have listeners that are not only in Atlanta, but thanks to social media and thanks to the internet, we have people that are listening from all over our globe. But if someone is in the local Hampton Roads area and they want to get involved in your church, get involved at First Baptist Church, Jefferson Park, how would they go about doing that?
Well, number one, for starters, you can definitely come to a Sunday service. We have Sunday school that starts at 9:30. The service starts at 10:30, and we're typically out of there about 12:30, so we definitely don't keep you all day. Or you can call the church at 757-380-0274, or you can visit the website, first-baptist-jefferson-park.com, and get involved. We're constantly coming up with creative ways to get involved in the local communities. We gave away book bags and school supplies before the kids went back to school in September. We're just on the fast pace to becoming the kingdom connection, and that's actually our mission statement.
That is just so amazing. I love it when the church has a website and you're able to go and visit, kind of do a virtual visit and see for yourself what's going on there, and are they doing the things that you want to do. And especially when you have little children, you want to make sure that your kids are going to learn just like you're going to be spiritually fed. I really think that that's important. Now, we know that the new year is upon us, and people have a tendency to do these wonderful New Year's resolutions. Some people follow through, some people don't. Some people do New Year's resolutions throughout the year and do kind of like quarterly resolutions. So I must ask you, with someone who is involved in so much and such an inspiration to so many, what are some of your future goals? What are some of the things that you want to do to be able to branch out and continue to work along this path that you've been purposed for?
Well, number one, I would love to take my college prep course on the road. We do have a church that was invited, and they are super excited about me coming to their church. So I don't want to just have it at my church. I want to, of course, expand it along the local communities and go to other churches. And another thing that I didn't speak about is that I personally each year sponsor kids as far as school supplies. So this year, I want to say last year I did 1 student, and this year I was able to do 3. So that's another New Year's resolution. Yeah, I can be able to sponsor even more children.
That is so wonderful. That is so nice. That is so nice. It's so wonderful to hear a young person that wants to genuinely give and that just has such a light that shines. We need to see that more. We need to be able to allow for you to also stand in the forefront so that the generation that's behind you is able to see, like, they have a certain expectation from those of us that are a little bit older, that we kind of have it all together and we already know what to do, and that our stuff is kind of fixed. We're old. I say that with air quotes. We're already old. But for people that are that are younger, it's so nice to see you involved and bringing them along on the journey with you, and explaining to them the do's and don'ts, the ups and downs and rounds of why you do what you do and how important that it is to go back and to reach back and bring somebody else with you. That is amazing. Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely. I do realize as an educator, I was an educator for 2 years in Newport News Public Schools, and I just know the importance of education. And I do feel like that our children are our future. And that's why I say it's very, very important to groom them while they're young. I have a young lady that's on my Facebook page, and she does her random acts of kindness from December 1st to the end of the year. And her son is 5. And he walked up, she recorded it, and he walked up to someone in Walmart and offered to pay for their groceries. And I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
It was awesome. And that, and he has something to look forward to. He has a role model, a mom and a dad that's in the house that does random acts of kindness. So I really enjoyed seeing that.
And boy, doesn't it really does our heart so good. And it's almost like a shame that we don't see that more often, that we tend to see the craziness that goes on in the world on social media so much more than we should, that there should be a sense of balance, that we should see these random acts of kindness just throughout the year, that it shouldn't take the Christmas season or it shouldn't take the Easter season, that it should just be something that we're trying to do throughout the year to be an example to our children, to be an example to our community that, hey, you guys, we really can do this. I am definitely a believer in the hashtag of love trumps hate. I believe that love really and truly can squash out any of the foul talk or any of the oppression that people are trying to put on another. Just if we just took a moment to just love on everyone and truly be brothers and sisters in Christ, that it would really and truly make a difference in our world today.
Absolutely. And, I'm just it saddens me sometimes to, see things on social media and then to know that children have access to that and they're subjected to that. But you have people like yourself and myself that come together and we show them the positive light of life. And that's why I live upon the principles that acknowledge, and he will direct our path. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying that I'm, the most religious person, but I do believe that it's a higher being that's ahead of my life, and he orders my footsteps. So, but if unity is power in unity, so if we stand together, I believe in that we can make a difference in the world.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Well, we are down to our last minute of the show. I know, listeners, we were getting some really good information here, but unfortunately it's almost time for us to go. So, Chynna, if you would please, can you remind our listeners where can they find your ministry as well as the church's ministry?
Absolutely. I am on social media. So my Twitter is @Diamond757. My Instagram is DiamondDiva757, no spaces. and powerfulwomeninministry.wordpress.com, where you can find my inspirational blogs. And if you would like to donate to the EGiving at my church, it's first-baptist-jefferson-park.com.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chynna Staton, for being here on the program with me today.
Absolutely, no problem. I'm so excited to be able to get the word out.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, listeners, thank you for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela, and I hope, as always, that you will have a wonderful, wonderful week, that you will, that the Lord's face will shine upon you, that you will receive His grace and His mercy in everything that you do. Until next week, go and shine your light and continue to be awesome. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.